Hello, everyone. This is Jimmy V Live, and we are actually live for the second time with our second podcast. And I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that we're going to have a great guest. We're going to have such a great guest today that goes back with us and so long ago, but don't want to age us, but that's what we are. And I'm going to bring in my co host here. But before I start, I have a special announcement. I want to wish my wife a wonderful, happy, phenomenal wedding anniversary. And with that said, I'm going to bring in Mark Steele. Here you come, Mark. How you doing, Mark?
Yo, Jimmy, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great. I just want to say hello to you and make sure everything is going good for you. Everything's going good for us. We are loaded with guests. I mean, it's lining up like you wouldn't believe. The guests are going to be phenomenal. Today is such a wonderful person. Goes back so long ago with us, and I called it a journey because it's a journey. I mean, we all were on a journey, but when I first met Jen back in the day, it was a journey, and there's some stories I'll tell, and it's going to be great. And with that said, hey, I'm happy to go. How's everything been with you this last week?
Yeah, good. It's been very busy. Actually, let me wish you a happy anniversary as well. How many years has it been? Can you say that?
Oh man, well, we're together very long, but it's actually 8 years. So
8 years married. Excellent.
when you tie the knot and make it official.
Yeah, you had an awesome wedding. I was actually there. It was a Siena golf club, right?
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah,
We had a lot of fun, and it was very enjoyable.
8 years goes by fast.
So
man.
with that said, I want to bring on. Oh yeah, I want to bring right now on a wonderful guest that I think is going to be phenomenal, and everybody should know her. Who actually comes, back in the day with us, Jennifer LaSala Holley, and I think it's great. There she is. How you doing?
Guys. Yeah, let me shift this here. Let me see. All
It's
right,
okay.
trying to get the camera here working.
It's all relaxation. It's all relaxation. So
Thanks
Jimmy, you
for
look
having
great
me, guys.
no matter what angle. Don't worry.
Please.
What was that?
I said you look great no matter what angle, so don't worry about how you got to move the TV around or the.
I love you. Happy belated birthday, by the way. I know your birthday was yesterday, so cheers to another trip around the sun. Yeah, some more delicious events, hopefully. Happy anniversary, Jimmy and Sonia. Some big milestones, some great celebrations. Yeah, it's great to see you guys. I'm honored that you would have asked me to join this. How fun.
Well, and I know we go back a long time in Mark, okay?
Yeah.
And it's just great to have you because, when we were putting together our list, to be honest with you, with Mark and I, and we were looking at that, who do we have that's the same guest that we suggest? Guess who was on our list as like the first top 10 people?
I love you guys. Thank you. That really means a lot. I really appreciate that. And I respect the both of you so very much. You've both been integral parts of my journey and my career. And I love that you called it my journey before we even had a chance to talk about it because it's just so fitting. It works perfectly.
It's great. It's great. And I'm very happy to have you. And, we have a lot of stories to tell. And, me, I'm connected with the health department. And Mark does what he does. And there's fond memories that I have with you. And there's one that I want to share right now. And Mark, I don't think you know about this one. Okay. I know Jen knows because I spoke to her before about it. So she would be surprised. But one thing I want to get you to, before I say that, I just want you to know, back in the day when we were at the Bellagio, we go back years and years, okay? So we're talking what? Maybe 1999 this was. And, Jen and the girls at the Pedrosian Lounge were always the key area where the health department met us. So Jen was real inspirational, especially with all the health inspectors, because she used to actually go ahead and meet and greet them, and they loved going there. We'd write up all the inspection reports. Well, this particular time, I'm walking with a gentleman named Steve Good. Okay, great guy. And he was one of the most stringent health inspectors at the time. And, I'm over here in this suit and tie thing, back in the day. And he's just relaxed. We're going through and having a real good inspection process. And here we go. He goes, oh, you know what? We always go, and he says to me, we always come and sign the papers here. Why don't we go ahead and inspect the Pedrosian Lounge? I says, no problem. And then as soon as he and I walk in, here comes Jen walking out with a birthday cake. Happy birthday, right in front of him. So the guy goes, I got to give you the points. I got to give you the points. Whose birthday was that, by the way? I don't remember.
Honestly, I don't even remember either. It was probably like Dink's or John's or somebody, but my goodness. Yeah, perfect timing. Too bad it wasn't the inspector's birthday.
I remember that one. That was great. But she was real inspirational when with the health department, because we used to actually go there. She'd sit there, she'd meet with them. She'd actually, if I wasn't there on time, she'd sit down there and talk with them. So she really buttered them up, and it was really good because they really enjoyed her company as well.
Well, Jimmy, that was a testament to you, though, because as you said, even in your last podcast, you taught all of us at the Bellagio not to fear the health department inspectors, that they're our allies, and they really want us to be successful. And they were people that we should lean into and embrace. And once we did, it turned around for us, and the whole dynamic changed when they came by. So, and that carried with me through my career, even as a general manager operating restaurants. When I was getting permits and things to open restaurants, when I started doing walkthroughs with them, and I explained, I trained with you, I trained with Alex Stokes, like they understood. The minute I said the name Jimmy Vigilante, they knew, okay, she's speaking a different language. We can talk differently now because she gets it. So that holds a lot of weight, and I appreciate you for that.
Oh, no. And you know what? Thank you for the accolades and all that, but you know what? You did it. Okay, you were you, and you being you with the personality, it was really great going on. And I know you have a lot to tell about yourself. I want Mark to ask you a couple things as well, because we're all friends here, and that's what's really good, and that's what's unique about this podcast. We're going to have a diverse angle of everybody who is in the food and beverage industry. And I don't like to usually announce guests next, but our next guest is tied into you too. Okay, next week, you know who we're going to have?
Who?
We're going to have Tony Abou-Ganim. How do you like that?
So excited.
So it's we're all connected.
We are all connected. And thank you, Jax. Apparently my dog wants to say hi too. I have two Vizslas, and they're very, very personable. But Tony was actually one of my first true mentors outside of my mom, who started me in this business at Take Your Daughter to Work Day. But Tony was really the one that opened my eyes to the bar and the bottles behind the bar and the history behind it. And, sitting in class with him, it started out as mandatory when we opened Bellagio. It was a 14-week mandatory training class that we had to sit and 2 hours each week in this training. And everyone grumbled and, we're getting paid, let's just go. And when I sat there, it's like sitting with your uncle at Thanksgiving, and he was telling you all these really cool stories about how things came to be, except it was about gin and vodka and rum and scotch. And every time he was done, it never felt like it was 2 hours. It felt like it wasn't enough. And to this day, Tony is still that same person. You can't help when you sit there, but just want to learn more from him. And he's one of the most humble people you will ever come across. And he's so giving and talented with his resources and what he's experienced and what he knows. And that's what also makes him so special. Yeah, he's written recipe books. Yes, he's done trainings literally all over the world. But he's just that person that you can't help but love being around and you want to know more about. So I'm so excited, not only for you guys to have him there, but for your viewers to get to be a part of that experience too, because it really is special. That's next level. So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. But Jen, don't tell too many stories. We got him next week.
Yeah, exactly.
We let the cat out of the bag here, huh?
I love it. And but I will say this about him, because he's not going to say it for himself. The one thing he continuously does is he connects with people, and he celebrates them and supports them in ways that they don't even realize they need it for themselves. And that's the really fun thing about him. And that's why he just has admirers all over the world, because you'll ask him and he'll say he's just Tony. It's amazing.
That's great. That's awesome.
Well, what about you? Let's hear about you. What has happened with you in your life? I know you're a mom now. I know you have an excellent husband. I know you got an excellent family. But what's going on with you? Where's life brought you?
That's all pieces. I appreciate that. That's all pieces of the journey. Literally. Even my husband, So started out, I was 14 years old. Actually, even before that, I was like 5 or 6. My mom was a food server back in New York on Long Island. And my mom worked nights. My dad worked during the day. So she'd pick me up from school, bring me to work with her, where I think the servers did this on purpose. They kind of convinced me to do their side work for them. So I was the 5 or 6-year-old folding napkins at the table in the corner and waiting for my dad to come pick me up. Or I would play cards with the bartender for the maraschino cherries, while he was doing his side work, setting up the restaurant. And that's kind of where the bug started. So when I turned 14, it was take your daughter to work day. My mom brought me to work and I had a job that weekend. She literally had to sign one of those, I'm aging myself now, one of those little green cards that allowed you to work under the age of 16 in the state of New York. And I started bussing tables that weekend and, moved up from a busser to a runner to a server, worked my way up, got behind the bar. And then my whole family moved out to Vegas. And they moved out in April of 98. I stuck behind because I wasn't really sure what that whole Vegas thing was about. I came out to visit and said, this place is like living on the sun. How could anybody live here? I don't know anybody does this. And my mom threw out the ultimate smackdown. Come check it out. If you don't like it, you can always go back. So I left my stuff in storage, said I'm not staying longer than 6 months. She ended up connecting me, telling all of her managers what I was doing back in the Hamptons. I was working and living in the Hamptons at the time. I was running a restaurant while everyone else, I don't know how much you guys know about this, but typically when the summers in the Hamptons go from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So the restaurants run during that time. And typically what happens is it's a lot of restaurant operators from Manhattan that go out to the Hamptons and take over a spot for that, 8, 10, 12 weeks. And so a lot of the staff go back and forth from the city to work. So I was one of the only ones that actually stayed behind throughout the week. Most restaurants were only open Thursday through Sunday or Wednesday through Sunday. So I took all of the reservations, handled all the orders, the inventory, that kind of stuff, and then worked the floor at night when they were open. And so when I moved out, it was about a week before the Bellagio opened. I had no idea what I was getting myself into and said, hey, let's check this out. And I've been spending the last 22 years trying to prove my mother wrong. But it's been amazing. Actually met my husband in restaurants. So I was at the Petrosian, like you said, it's a lounge in the front area where you check in at the Bellagio under that gorgeous Dale Chihuly installation, that glass installation in the ceiling, where we serve caviar and high tea service and have a pianist that has played for 6 sitting presidents, playing a gorgeous Steinway that was designed and built just for the Bellagio. And the neat part about that lounge was it originally was supposed to be just like a snack shack where people walked by and got something quick as they were walking into the casino. And it ended up becoming something so much more and something so much more amazing. And the people that come through there, you literally can sit there, listen to some fabulous music and watch the whole world pass you by. And it's something that's been incredibly special. I ended up having the pleasure of working and basically living there, but working there for 10 years and then helping open Encore at Switch Steakhouse when Encore opened in 2008. Also had the immense pleasure of not only just working for Steve Wynn and his company, but also the Morton family, Michael Morton and Jenna Morton. I got to open the only leased food and beverage outlet at the Wynn, which was incredibly special to me. And decided to veer off a little bit, ended up running the beverage program for catering and banquets for both Wynn and Encore for a bit, and then landed a dream job working for the 2 Hot Tamales, opening a restaurant for them at Border Grill and the Forum Shops. And then, as if things couldn't get even more amazing, ended up landing a job now where I'm the account development specialist for Brown-Forman through Breakthrough Beverage in town, which is a local distributor. And I get to connect people with their brands in a meaningful way. So Jack Daniels, Woodford Reserve, Herradura Tequila, Old Forester, El Jimador Tequila, Chambord, single malt scotches. And my time at Bellagio is really what set me up for where I am today. I entered a competition when I was at Bellagio. It was a 14-week cocktail competition. And it was done in chop style, where we got 1 ingredient, 1 spirit, and we had a week to create 3 cocktails in a presentation. And my partner and I won after those 14 weeks. And that's what kind of set me off into where I am today. I actually got to visit the Woodford Reserve and Jack Daniels distilleries and meet the master distillers and understand the process.
What was the drink you won with?
It was called the Run for the Roses. So it was a play on a mint julep, except we added apricot liqueur and grilled pineapple to it. And Woodford Reserve happens to be one of the brands that I get to represent now. So talk about coming full circle. It's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Wow. That's amazing. Look at that.
It was. I actually met my husband because we were closing down the Country Club Steakhouse at Wynn, where I was for a couple of years, and I needed some glass racks, and he was assistant executive steward at the time, and called him looking for some glass racks, and the rest is history.
That's the way you get favors with the steward, right? You always want to be on their good side.
I'll tell you, on our first date, I had him try some Woodford Reserve, and that's when he knew I was different than all the other girls he ever dated, and that was the end.
That was it. That was the one. Excellent. Very good.
That's it. That's how it all happens for us, and it's amazing because, where did I meet Sonia? Bellagio. You see what I mean? So it's all connected some way or another.
It is. And, I've found throughout the years, all those different levels that I've reached in my career have included someone along the way from those people that I've met all the way back to Bellagio. And the reason why I'm in the position I'm in today are actually from a few individuals from the Bellagio, which is Drew Levinson, who actually created that cocktail competition. He was the one that knew of this job opening and connected me that way. So I've learned never, ever burn bridges, but also Randy Morton at the Bellagio once told us, I was part of the management training program there, don't just get one mentor, get 5 mentors. And connect with them and stay accountable and have them connect with you on a regular basis, because you want people to hold you accountable. You want to be able to verbalize your goals and your desires, and then someone to help lift you up when you try to get to them. And that always stayed with me as well.
And don't forget, guys, remember we all had to go through the 5-star 5-diamond training.
Yes. That doesn't turn out, by the way.
Out along the way. Yeah. I remember that. I remember doing some work in Aria, right? And I'm going through the whole thing, and that's when Bobby Ball was at Aria at that time. And then all of a sudden they go, yeah, we're doing this new concept now called 5-star 5-diamond training. I said, well, I think I remember that a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I love it.
Awesome.
That's also what's so important about what both of you are doing right now, especially you, Mark. I mean, coming up through this, we were fortunate enough at Bellagio to have that training in the beginning, because their goal was to become so revolutionary and increase or raise the bar and the level of service when they opened Bellagio, to make it something so unique and so different than anything that we saw in Las Vegas at that point in time, especially when it came to food and beverage and hospitality in general. And so there didn't exist anything of what you were doing. So now what you're doing for our craft, and it's just absolutely amazing, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I mean, a lot of that stems back in the day, and I got hired as a food server at Bellagio, and bright-eyed and 20-something years old, and all of a sudden I'm right in the front. I got hired by the Macchioni family right in the front at Churco, which is now Lago. But all of a sudden I'm working around all these master sommeliers and a wine list of 1,000 bottles, and Cirio and Mario Macchioni are walking around the restaurant, and Edgy Deanna, and it's like, and Steve Wynn's walking through the place, and all of a sudden it was just a giant leap. And I'm like, you know what, I need to get on or get off. So I just, I admittedly didn't know a lot about wine. I didn't know a lot about spirits. And every day that I walked through those halls of Bellagio, there were signs posted all over the place. Bellagio Wine Academy, go learn about Jack Daniel's today. And I went on my own time, and every single day learned about that. And, I'll never forget one of the times that I was a bright-eyed kid, like I said, and I was ordering a bottle of wine. The customer ordered a bottle of wine for me, and then I went to the sommelier and I told him what it was, and I butchered the name, and he had no idea what it was, and he kind of gave me and I won't say his name, but he gave me a very pedestrian look, like, you're working here and you don't know that. And you better believe I went out and I studied and I took union classes, and now I train and teach wine myself. So yes, it all stems back from back then. So
absolutely, and I love
how
that.
it works. That's how it works.
But the great part is, though, is that we're so fortunate. We have such an amazing food and beverage community here in Las Vegas. There are just so many people that want to share their experiences and want to help lift others up, it's so inspiring, especially now where there's so much information to be shared. I think it's great. And I love that you get to see the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed bussers and servers and runners that want to add value to what they're doing in their day. And I think it's incredible. So, and I love that you two have collaborated together. It made the perfect sense to me. One, just because you're dynamic people in your own right, but you want to help lift others up. And it's definitely a time where we all need it. So thank you for everything you guys do.
Yes, ma'am.
No, appreciate
Well,
that.
thank you.
And what we're going to do is we're going to have the servers on. We're going to have the different positions on. We want to show that they're just as important as anybody else, and they have experiences. You know, we all just went through this murderous time, and we're still going through it with this pandemic. And, you know, when this first came out, it was, a little freaky to me because it's like, wow, everything is rolling so good. And you just don't realize how fast something could be taken away from you, and it's still going on, and everybody's affected by it. And it's important that we get the story out to how it affected everybody,
Absolutely. But I also look at this, and maybe I'm the glass half full girl, but I look at this as an awakening for us. I look at this as a shift. It's a shift in energy. It's a shift in perspective. I think a lot of steps of service that we've had throughout the years, while they've been honored and traditional and respected, maybe they don't fit the mold anymore of what we're trying to do when we connect with our guests. And I think it's moments like this where businesses have to pivot and have to understand how to do things a little bit differently, where we find the newer trend or the newer thing. And it's about coming back together. It's not so much as throwing a whole group of people in a room, but how do we take the smaller steps now and make it meaningful to people? How do we change people's lives? And, what's neat about this, about what we do, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's just serving. It's just a meal. It's not a big deal. It's not brain surgery. But as a story as you'll tell soon, we actually do affect people's lives. And that's where what you do, Jimmy, is so important. And what you do, Mark, is so important, to put them together. You think about it. I used to tell my staff, people prepare for a trip. They book their flight. They book their hotel. They go and buy clothes. They go and get their hair done. They maybe go buy luggage. They pack their bags 3-4 days before. They take time off of work. They get so excited to get here. They get here. And how awful would it be for them to spend the rest of their time either in their hotel room bed or a hospital because of a question a server didn't ask or a conversation that wasn't had that now affects their life. And it's even not so much as health-wise, yes, knowing what's in their food and what we're serving them, if there are allergies or things they need to know. But then even for other reasons, I actually had a guest on Thanksgiving when I was working in a restaurant. I was GM, and I came on a little bit later in the day, and I just dove right in because they were busy. I started clearing plates. And one of the gentlemen looked at me when I went to go clear his plate, and he said, I'm sorry, can you tell me what this is on my plate? Is this bacon? And I said, I'm not quite sure. I literally just walked in the door. Give me just a minute. And I stepped aside. I went to the chef on the line, and I asked if there was bacon included in the green beans on the turkey platter. And he said, yes. I said, okay, give me another minute. Went back to the guest. I said, yes. His whole face, he turned 3 shades of white. His wife got immediately angry. Said, okay, step back. Let me find out what's going on here. He told his server in the beginning of the meal that he does not eat pork products because of religious observances. The man was 64 years old. In his entire life, he had not eaten pork until that moment when he had not known. The server went to the chef and asked if there was bacon in the stuffing. And the chef said no, because there wasn't bacon in the stuffing. So because the chef said no, the server didn't put in no bacon because she felt that would be the only component where the bacon would be located. The chef didn't ask further, well, why are you asking? When I asked the chef, come to find out the turkey was brined in bacon, there was bacon in the green beans, and there was bacon in everything but the stuffing. So now, unbeknownst to this poor gentleman who thought he was communicating and doing the right thing, his life was immediately changed. The server thought she was doing the right thing, went to the chef and asked the question, thought she did her due diligence, but didn't continue the conversation or ask further. The chef thought he was doing the right thing and didn't continue the conversation further. And all it needed was 5 more seconds or 2 more sentences, and this man's life would not have been changed forever. So when people say you're just a server or you're just a busser or you're just a runner, I firmly disagree with that, because we are changing people's lives for the better or for the more interesting. And there was literally nothing I could do or say that day to make that right or change that in his eyes. I couldn't. And we literally affected someone's life that day. And I never, ever forgot it. And neither did that server. And we still talk about it to this day. So that's why these trainings are so important.
Oh, absolutely. Because you learn how to deal with the individual. You learn how to deal with everybody on so many angles. I know that when I, moved here from Florida years and years and years ago, I remember getting into the Bellagio world. And when they told me, all right, here's a book, they just said, you get hired. Everything was like, scramble city for me. Nothing was set up. I'm the first guy ever did this. They go, okay, here, some chef, which I don't even remember who it was. Here's a book. So they said, did you ever talk in front of anybody before? I says, people in a country club, and they said, well, no, you're going to talk about a few hundred people. I opened the door. Here's this ballroom, about 6,000 people sitting there. And they said, and here's the book, teach them. What? Okay, wait. I said, everybody open up your book. They look at the book. I says, close it because this book is not right. And then I looked over at that chef, and the chef just looked at me, the mouth dropped. I says, no, this is what we're going to do. But what I'm getting at is learning from the days of being trained properly actually had me mature in a lot of ways. I've learned how to deal with people on all different angles. It's not so much of a tunnel vision of just from the health code. I've learned different angles of different positions and learned to respect everything. And I never had that outlook before. So what you're saying is so important, because how many people started at one position and went all the way up? I can think of so many people that went up the ladder, just being themselves. And, the training is so important, especially what Mark does. I mean, there's so many things and angles. I hear him speak. That's his expertise of what he does. And when he starts speaking and training people at it, I'm listening. And as I'm listening, it really makes sense. Maybe I didn't pay attention to it before years ago, but what he's doing makes a lot of sense, because we always push it, Mark and I, whether he's on a different podcast or whatever, guest perception. And it's amazing how far our training goes.
Absolutely. I agree. And, that was one thing I learned setting the stage and the whole environment from working for Wynn, both at Bellagio and at Wynn and Encore. But I learned looking through guest eyes from Michael Morton. That was something that was so specific to him and to Jenna, that they would make us as management sit in the chairs and look around the room and understand what it looked like from their perspective. Where was the trash can? Where were the chairs aligned? What was the feeling in the space? And with the high level 5-star 5-diamond training I already had, I thought I was already ahead of the game. So when I'd have my room set up, he would walk through and find 5 more things that needed to be changed or altered just based off of the guest perspective. And I'm so incredibly grateful for everything I learned from them, because it was a whole nother level of understanding. And that's why I love what Mark does, because he does it in a way that's approachable. People don't feel as if they're being taught. They feel as if they're connecting. And, now more than ever, it's so important for the people that come through the doors in Vegas to feel safe, to feel comfortable, and to feel as if they're being cared for. They want to know that their money is being spent in a way that's valued and appreciated. And that's something that, you can do through a question, through a touch, through a smile when you approach the table, and through body language. And so, as you said, this training now more than ever, learning how to connect people in that way is just so, so important. So Mark, what's your favorite part of all this, of doing the trainings that you do?
It's a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. We just passed our 5-year anniversary of us being open as a state certified school. We just got approved for another 1.5 years of being open, and I have other programs that are being worked on as well, including we're actually approved to do alcohol awareness now.
I need to call you, by the way. I need to update my TAM card.
We chatted about that. But so we're going to be an all-in-one service. We made several connections with some big recruiters on the Strip, and a lot of the big ones that are opening up that we can't officially talk about yet. But we're definitely going to be an all-in-one shop. You can come to us for alcohol awareness training, COVID training now, health training, and not to mention food, wine, spirit, service. We're all in one shop, and if you want to come here and if you want to learn and you want to get a job place, we're the place to be. So
I love that. I love it. And funny story, Jimmy, I don't know if you know this, but I actually met Mark's wife through a training that I had done. I was asked from my boss at Breakthrough to put together a really great experience for a group of senior executive level women from a local hospitality group that was in town and a major corporation. They were coming in at their senior executive level. They do this lean-in group, this networking and support group, where they get together, I believe it's once a quarter, to do something outside of their normal job responsibilities and duties. And so they chose to connect with Breakthrough. And I was able to welcome them into our alchemy room, which is a really amazing training area at Breakthrough Beverage in Nevada. There are about 20 of them around the country, created by Drew Levinson. Again, talk about things coming together. But I was able to bring them in and kind of show them a bit of Tennessee and Jack Daniel's Distillery, but in Vegas, and brought them in for a lunch, a Jack Daniel's family of brands tasting, and got to give them a few little goodies of fun on their way out the door and thank them for coming. And it was this wonderful, inspirational, uplifting afternoon where we information shared. We talk about best practices, not only as females, but also in the industry in Las Vegas. How do we support each other more? How do we get better at what we do? How do we hold ourselves, accountable more for what we're doing? And then also talk about Jack Daniel's and enjoy some whiskey. And at the very end, she said, "Oh, my husband's going to love this. He's all about learning and training and whiskey." And I said, okay, I need to know now. I probably know him, who is your husband. And the minute she said Mark Steele, it's like, oh, okay, we're all just one big family. We're also interconnected. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Really.
it's great to have all those meetings, but the opening a few bottles of Jack Daniel's really helps out also, right?
Absolutely, especially when it's Sinatra.
Yeah, we actually still have the bottle at the house. We haven't opened it yet. It's engraved, and it's kind of ironic that Jennifer, you and I have worked together so long, but she's the one with the swag that's got the engraved big bottle of Sinatra, and I get the little dinky bottles from the store. So it is.
For
what it is.
now. Jimmy, by the way, I don't know if you know all the local Lees. If someone buys a bottle of Gentleman Jack, you can get it engraved for free right now for the next couple of days.
Right.
I might want to let someone know. Yeah, you can customize it. So that might be something too, Mark. If you want something engraved.
Yeah, there you go, Mark.
Yeah,
I know.
Behind you, Mark, right next to the sign on a nice little thing there, man.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah,
Jimmy, don't give it all away. I'm working on some things.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Mark,
it's amazing.
Mark, it's time for your question, man. You got that question. And Mark always has a question for everybody. And I'm going to let him ask it because he's the best at it.
Well, first, even before I get to that, Jennifer, you've had a lot to say. Thank you very much for, for chatting with us. And half an hour goes by like nothing, blinking eyes. And I'm sure we could go on for another 4 hours or so.
Oh, yeah.
If we opened up some Jack Daniels. But, yes. I just want to thank, and this is also to Jimmy, who's been my longtime friend and colleague. But, Jennifer, I want to tell everyone out there in the industry world that I don't think there's a bigger like rah-rah cheerleader for the industry of Las Vegas and Jennifer. Anything that needs to go that you want to know about the industry, she is like posting up on social media. She's sharing stuff. I mean, she has always, and I don't want to embarrass her now, but there's a handful of people, and we've been in Las Vegas for a long time, but there's a handful of people, including you two, that, I can send an email, I can make a text, I can make a call, and I'm going to get a response, whether it be good or bad, but 95% of the time it's good. And it's how can I help? How can I help better RHI? How can I help better your lives? Jennifer was instrumental. My wife and I also went to Water Grill at that time for our words on Sundays. Jennifer helped us set us up, and she's done so many things for my family functions and helping out people to get tours in Tennessee and all that. So, Jennifer, thank you very much for being such a great ambassador to myself, to my wife, to everyone involved. And I hope you, continue to do so. And I'm happy to call you a colleague and, so we can help each other out on this stuff as we move through all this.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Jen, it goes beyond explanation from what Mark said. Thank you so much for this, because I think you coming to us, and you're on our top 10 list, maybe the top 5, I believe, actually, of having you on was really great, because your inspiration and, your guidance and your knowledge is second to none. And I appreciate it, definitely. And thank you so much for appearing.
Thank you for having me. This was an honor. I love what I do. I love all of the people I come across. And if some of the experiences that I've had or some of the things that I know can help someone else, advance in their career or expand their awareness, I'm all for it. I have a lot of people in this village that surrounds me that I'm so grateful for. One of them being my husband, being you guys, being Tony, that are just so supportive, that just come through time and time again, that show up. And I appreciate that. And if it weren't for those people, I wouldn't be where I am today. If it weren't for Drew, if it weren't for Sarah Bauer, there's so many people that I could name. We don't have another 4 hours, like Mark said, but if I can be that for someone else and pay back for all the benefits and things that I've gotten experience because of it, I'm all for it. I'm all for helping. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the platform to get to tell my story and talk a little bit as well. So what's your question, Mark?
Well, my question is also, I got a question for Jimmy. He was in your top, you were in his top 10, you were a little bit higher than me and, for my list. So, but anyway, just joking, so anyway, Jimmy, so here's a question that we want to ask all of our people. So we're all got Vegas ties, and I want to hear a story, a specific story. And it was great, the other one that you told us earlier about the Thanksgiving dinner, but it's something that you wouldn't really believe unless you were working in Las Vegas in the industry. And it could be professional, it could be personal, it could be a gambling story, but tell us something that you really wouldn't understand unless you actually lived here. And it would be like, okay, yeah, well, that probably happened to me several times too.
Absolutely. I'd love it. It didn't happen to me initially, me myself, but then it included me after the fact. So my father passed, it'll be 2 years in November, but he moved out here with my mom and my brother, who was 12 years younger than me, in April of 1998, while I was still living in New York. And twist of fate and things, he went from home improvement business to actually selling cars. And he was giving a test drive one day to a couple of gentlemen and started talking with them, because you make conversation with your customers as you're in confined spaces, right? And try to get to know them. And started asking, oh, where are you from? What brings you here? And they're like, oh, we're from New York. So he said, of course, I'm from New York. I just moved here. Where are you guys from? What are you doing here? And the one guy said, oh, I came to open the Bellagio. And he said, oh, so funny. My wife just got a job at the Bellagio as a food server. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, what restaurant? He's like, I don't know. It's some weird name. Sam's American. And the guys start laughing. And my father said, what's so funny? And the other guy goes, that's Sam. He's like, no kidding. So Sam DeMarco was actually taking a test drive with my father. They had both, just all of them, moved out from New York to Las Vegas. Turns out Sam not only became the chef, the executive chef of the room where my mother and I actually started initially when Bellagio opened. He ended up coming to our home for Easter and Thanksgiving and Christmas, because when you don't have immediate family here and you're from the East Coast, you make your family, and everyone came to join us. And years later, I went to New York to go visit, and visited one of his restaurants that were still in New York at the time. Ended up meeting his chef that was there, because he said, call my guy, he'll take care of you. Went out there, it was Billy DeMarco. Billy DeMarco moved out a few years later. He and I became phone friends, and he and I opened La Cave together at the Wynn. And he was actually the catalyst and the reason when I called looking for those glass racks. He was the one, it was his office that my husband, John, called me from when I put the pager through. And Billy got on the phone and said, wait a minute, you're single, John's single. I'm understanding now what's happening here. And he said, all right, I got to go. Bye. Hangs up the phone. Calls me back later, said, I gave John your phone number. He's going to call you. He's going to take you to your favorite restaurant. You're going to go. You're going to have a great time. I just asked that I be invited to the wedding. Bye-bye. And hung up.
Was he invited?
Because that was his part in it. But it just goes to show you that years later, how everyone just plays a role in this big story. And each chapter just adds up to something bigger. And it's so amazing. It really is. And I love it.
Awesome.
That's great. That's great. Well, Jen, thanks again. I know Mark and I will have you on again.
I'd love to. Thank you. And Trish was awesome last week. It was great.
It was great. And I wish we had more time, but we want to try to keep it down to about 35 minutes or so. And it's great, though. You're a great person. And, we'll be in touch. We'll always stay in touch.
Thank you, my friends. As I like to say, as my servers know me well, thank you for coming to work today. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for making a difference. You know, everyone has a choice whether or not they come to work. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to pay your bills. That is a choice. And when you choose to show up and show up in a way that serves others and helps others be better version of themselves, there's just nothing like it. So thank you both for coming to work today. I love you. I respect you. And I appreciate you so very much. And everyone that's watching, I hope you keep watching because this is just going to keep getting better.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, guys.
Mark, unbelievable, huh?
Awesome.
Unbelievable. Real good person, real good friend. Everything it was great. I appreciate, the guests we're having now, and I think it's going to be good. And next week, Tony Abou-Ghanem. I mean, that's great. We're moving on. We got after that. We got Paul Lagudi, and he has a new company coming out, Lagudi Fine Foods. So we had quite a bit of guests going on. I don't want to give everybody away, but you know what? We got it. We'll start announcing them as we go along. There's, anybody has any questions or suggestions, go ahead. Mark and I are, open to whatever. And I think it's another good podcast, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on, Jimmy. This is Jimmy V Live, but I'm happy to be a part of it and talk with some people as well. So can I I got a couple things coming up this week. Can I talk about it real quick with RHI?
Absolutely, you can.
So starting tomorrow, we're associated with quite a few nonprofits around town too. St. Jude's Ranch for Children does an annual wine, women, and shoes event. And they had to cancel it earlier in the season, but they're redoing it virtually this year. And there's silent auction items going up. You can check out their website. And we're actually, for RHI, we're actually going to be giving a private wine tasting, custom wine tasting at someone's facility or at the RHI premises. And that's going to be one of the live silent auctions that you can bid on over the course of a week. We're also going to be donating some wine as well, which I just picked up right on the way here, and it's some awesome stuff. And then also, if you are a fan of education in spirits or liquor, I'm actually working with UNLV and the hospitality school over there, and I'm going to be doing a brief 30 to 45 minute synopsis on sake. So if you just think it's like sake bombs and you use it to cook, or you don't have a very good vision of sake, this is a good way to learn the basics of it. I'll teach you terminology, drunk history. We'll do some tasting, some food pairings, and that's going to be Saturday on the 20th. And you can sign up on the UNLV hospitality website, and it's done on Zoom, and we'll be doing that on Saturday night. So, and that's free of charge. Both of those things are free.
Excellent, man. Excellent. As you know, everything's picking up. Everybody's starting to open, and which is good. And we just got to keep the positive focus and move forward, man. It's the way it is. Well, Mark, it's that time. Next week, same time. I want to say same bat time, same bat channel like the old days in the Batman comics, but we're going to do it. Tony Abou-Ghanem is the next one. And it'll keep going on, man, because this is a lot of fun doing this.
Happy anniversary again.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Bye-bye.